Hi, this is Wisdom. Welcome to today's book reflection from chapter 10 of Dr. Myles Munroe's book, The Principles and Benefits of Change. The theme for the chapter is the greatest hindrance to positive change, and it has the sub-theme, outdated methods and traditions stifle innovation. I think this chapter contains a lot of wisdom nuggets that you would find really useful. And so I encourage you to stay through to the end. Now, the chapter begins with a quote by a philosopher and writer, Eric Hoffer. And it's quite a deep quote. It says that in times of change, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. In times of change, it says, learners inherit the earth, while the learned find themselves beautifully equipped to deal with a world that no longer exists. There are many of us, many individuals, many organizations, many families and societies that are stuck with certain old ways, old ideas and ideals. So the learned in this sense are those that are unable to let go of what may have been in the past in order to be able to adjust to the current demands of world transitions. These individuals, it says, they'll be stuck in a world that no longer exists, while those who are able to adjust to change and respond to change appropriately will be able to take full advantage of what the now has to offer. So the chapter says that while change is the greatest motivator of innovation, tradition, including a reliance on past experiences, is the greatest hindrance to the positive changes you desire for your life, community, nation, and the world. So the whole discussions we've been having from chapter 1 until now, we come to realize how change is inevitable and it is an important ingredient for human progress. However, one of the things that will stifle our ability to transition in the right way as change happens is our holding on to tradition. Things from our past experiences, from our past, and things that at the end of the day may have lived or outlived their purpose. And it says that by tradition, I'm not referring to timeless truths. Good judgment and sound principles never change. So there are certain theories, certain ideas and principles in various aspects of society and various professions, organizational structures and all that transcend generations, and these are relevant across time and across space. These are not what the chapter is talking about, and we'll get to see what tradition in this sense is as we progress in a full context. So it talks about how tradition can be a pull. It holds us back from the needed change and progress that we demand. So it talks here about the pull of tradition, and it says that when we are used to a method that has been effective and successful, we will be tempted to keep using it. And that is whether it's a program, a system, a project, a style, or a modus operandi. Again, there are practices and methods that transcend change and generations. Yet, traditional ways of thinking or of doing things can hinder us from thinking innovatively in addressing the needs of today. So one thing that becomes a challenge for many individuals and societies to progress is because there is a way that we have become used to. I am used to learning in this way. This is me. This is my style of learning. And that is how you've been learning from primary school, JHS, senior high school, and it's been helpful. But you get to the tertiary level and then you start failing. You are not doing well. But because of the tradition that this is how I learn, this is my learning style, you are not able to adjust to the demands of this new environment and new program. You may have done mathematics at the lower level, but the higher level where you are studying mathematics and statistics, you may need to adopt a new approach. And if you are not able to do that, tradition, which is your past experience, your past methods, will become that thing that pulls you away from succeeding at this next level. And so it is important for us to understand that although there are some principles, some practices, ideals that transcend time and season, there needs to be this balance where we are able to make progress and make the adjustments that are needed so that we don't become prisoners to past experiences and methods that are no longer relevant. So it says that in this context, tradition is taking something that was once successful and attempting to pass it on to the next generation. We think that because something has worked for us, then it must and should always work. Just because something worked for you in the past as an organization does not mean that it will work for you in this year. Just because a certain ideology has been useful over time does not mean that going forward in your life you should stick to it. It may become the reason why you are not able to make progress. And sometimes this is where the young generation and the older generation, they have frictions, because you have some elders who say that this is how we used to do it. This is how it has to be done. These are the things that made us successful. These are the things that made us, excel. These are the things that held us together. And because of that traditional way of thinking, they are not able to realize that things may have changed and the conditions that fueled the success of what they used to do in the past may not be what is at play today. And the young people too, because we think that, yes, this is our time and our world, we do not realize that there may be traditions of now that may not be as helpful as traditions of the past. So the balance is important. Just as the fact that something has worked before does not mean that it will continue working. And knowing and understanding this can help you to avoid being a prisoner of tradition. Now, some insight is given us from the man Samson in the Bible, and he is one of the characters in the Bible that many of us are in the known of. Now, in Judges 15:14-16, it says that as Samson approached Lehi, the Philistines came toward him shouting. The Spirit of the Lord came on him in power. The ropes on his arms became like charred flax, and the bindings dropped from his hands. Finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey, he grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men. Then Samson said, with a donkey's jawbone I have made donkeys of them. With a donkey's jawbone I have killed 1,000 men. Now, he was tied down. He was in a position where he couldn't do much. But when the power of God came upon him and he was able to break loose, he used the fresh jawbone of a donkey as a tool for fighting and destroying the people that had come to attack him, the Philistines. Now it says that if Samson had lived today, he might have hired a marketing manager who would have helped him to patent that jawbone, manufacture it in quantity, and sell it to the highest bidder as a proven weapon, whether or not it would work for that person as it had for him. Yet Samson apparently didn't think in those terms. The account of the incident concludes. When he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone. That is the verse 17 of the scripture from Judges 15. Now, he saw no need to enshrine that jawbone, even though he had won a great victory with it. He realized that it wasn't the jawbone but the power of God that had enabled him to succeed. So, because he was able to fight with a jawbone and defeated thousands, does not mean that using a jawbone is the ideal and the best way to win a battle against thousands of men. There was something that happened to him, and for that reason, that victory came. The power of God came upon him. Now, if you take many people, many individuals from the religious environment and social, political environment, and in our individual societies, you find many people that because something worked for them, they make it a doctrine, so that you have to follow this in order to be able to succeed. And in that fixated, they are not able to, move on when times of change happen. Imagine somebody also goes to take a jawbone as a battle axe and then ends up, making a fool of themselves. So Samson understood that the use of the jawbone in itself is not necessarily an indication that for every battle a jawbone will be used. But that is what is happening in our world in many parts. People are making a tradition out of certain paths, certain ideals that may have helped them in the past. Yes, in another instance, the same feet can be chopped, but it shouldn't become the reason why you are unable to use other methods when you find yourself in a particular situation. And so, if you are hoarding your jawbones, it says, are you hoarding your jawbones of the past? Or are you willing to throw away even what worked previously? Because, and this is the key, because you recognize that change demands that a new method be used. So you are not discarding the experience, you are not discarding the method that worked before, just for the fun of it or the sake of it. But because you recognize that the times that you find yourself in now, in school, at work, in your marriage, in whatever environment or situation you are, there is a demand that a new idea, a new method, a new approach is adopted. So tradition can be defined as success that is frozen in time, but that you try to bring into the future, even as change is making the old ways irrelevant. Some of us are trying to fit round pegs in square holes, and we are not able to do that because the problem we are trying to solve, the progress we are trying to make, is not consistent with the ideals and the methods that we are using. And we should also understand in throwing away our jawbones that some changes need to be made as a way of correcting what is wrong in society. So it says that, again, change drives you to consider, create, invent, and construct unexplored potential you never knew you had. As I've said before, I have great faith in the human spirit because that spirit is made in God's image and it is his nature to be creative. We will find a way because we will be inventive. So naturally, we have this tendency to be innovative, and God has made us so because He Himself is the creator and the great innovator. However, if we stick with tradition and ways that are not working, methods that have outlived their purpose, traditions and principles and practices that have outlived their purpose, we will stifle that natural ability that God has given us to be able to innovate. Now, we will end with 4 key ways that we hold on to the past or hold on to tradition. And the first one that we have here is resting on earlier success. Some of us, because we have been successful in the past, we are not able to get abreast with the changing times. When you used to work, when you entered the force, when you entered that work space as an accountant, as whatever it is, there were methods that were helping you to be the best worker or helping you to make or chalk successes. The business, when you started, there were no competitors and you were winning, you were making big sales. But if you fail to realize that the successes you chalk, the achievements from the past will not determine what happens in the present, you will fail to make progress. So it says that when we become overly satisfied with our past, we will not be able to make progress. So we can become so mesmerized by the history we have created that we stop making new history. Are you concentrated on your past and your successes of the past such that you are not able to make new history? If change is not working in your life, then you'll be stuck in the level of success that belongs to your past and your history. The second way we hold on to tradition is being preoccupied with past methods. So sometimes, because what approach we used in the past, as I mentioned, for some students, because they've used certain methods of learning in the past and it worked, they want to fit it into the new level that they got into. There are some businesses, some methods they used in the past in preparing that product. Because it worked in the past, they are still stuck in it. And that can be a challenge in making progress. People who can forge new frontiers, whether on a large scale or small scale, will be successful through change. The key to future failure, therefore, is to be preoccupied with the past and to cling to traditional ways of doing things. If you are not willing to change the methods as the present times demand and as the changes of life demand, you will be stuck in failure. The third key way we hold on to tradition is relying on experiences or experience as our best teacher. It is common to hear that experience is the best teacher, but it is not always a very good teacher. So it says that experience is a very good teacher, especially when we can learn from our mistakes. So if you can learn from your past experiences and the mistakes you made and some of the things you did that were also, and you use that as a platform for progressing today, then experience is good. If you can look at the life of others and learn from their achievements and their failures, their successes, their strengths from the past and their story, and you use it as one of the tools that helps you to stand the demands of today, then experience is a good teacher. However, it says that those who rely on experience alone can undermine their futures. If you cling to an experience that cannot accommodate change, the demands of now, the demands of the year that we find ourselves in, the demands of your new academic level, the demands of the new boss you have, the demands of the new workplace you find yourself, the demands of the new market, environment and condition, then this can cause you to become a victim of change. And that change will happen while you are stuck in what your past experiences are. And in that sense too, this becomes a challenge for many people in the area of mental health. There are times where you meet certain clients, and I find that they are holding on to certain experiences from the past that they have not been able to deal with and move on. And so we say that they have many unfinished businesses. And if you're not able to help them to bring closure to it, they are not able to make progress and live a happy life going forward. So if we are not able to deal well with our past experiences, although they teach us, although they give us caution for the future, we need to be able to learn how to not cling onto those experiences such that they cause us to not move forward. It says that he who is the past will remain there. I think this should be our quote or takeaway from today's chapter. He who worships the past will remain there. The final way that we cling onto tradition is when it says, when you are through changing, you are through. And this basically means, or simply means, that if you think you have arrived, as the opening quote said, the learned, they will be stuck to dealing with a world that does not exist. So if you think that you have arrived, the greatest human temptation is to believe that you have arrived. It says, we are all prone to move towards security, but security itself is an illusion. And it talks about how sometimes we get ourselves into certain financial, securities, investments and all that, believing that we are secure. But even in that, sometimes it backfires. So the whole idea of security, being secure, I have now achieved, I have all the knowledge there is, that mindset, consciously or subconsciously, can be a reason why you are stuck in the past and cannot make progress in the now. So if you are not one who is able to understand that there's no point where you have arrived, we talk about lifelong learning. Individuals that are lifelong learners are able to make the right transitions and make the most of life and change. If you think you have your life wrapped up, you have just died. This is another quote that I think is worth taking. If you think you have your life wrapped up, you have completed it, then you have just died. So these are some key ways, 4 key ways that we hold on to tradition. And I believe that if we are able to deal with them, it can help us to make progress through change. Finally, before we leave, what should we do? We should forget what is behind and forge ahead, just as Paul admonished the Philippians. He says, I press on that I may lay hold of that for which Christ Jesus has also laid hold of me. Brethren, I do not count myself to have apprehended, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forward to those things which are ahead. I press toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. If you are able to forge ahead, yes, learn from the past and learn from things that have worked before, but learn to forge ahead, look ahead. Forward is the way, and that is what will help you to benefit from change as it happens all around you. These are the core things I want us to reflect on, and I hope that you have found them useful. As we leave, I pray that you will be guided. I pray that you will learn to know how to make use of your past experiences and not hold on to them and become a prisoner of your past. But you'll be able to forge ahead and make all the changes that need to be made. Be creative and innovative, just as God designed you to be. Thank you so much for joining today's reflection. See you in the next one, where we will talk about the challenge of change. Take care and stay safe. Bye bye.